Here in Saigon, there are many reminders of Vietnam's French colonial past. From language, food, culture and arts, and more spectacularly, to buildings such as these. Stamped on the landscape by a powerful empire controlling Saigon from Paris. Here in the Saigon Central Post Office, the French government would have managed all communications between Europe and Asia. This was the central part of France's commercial empire. And even though the remains of it seem so permanent today, its beginning was not so simple and not so easy.
French interest in Vietnam began in the 17th century as Catholic missionaries spread across Asia. This man, Alexander de Rhodes, arrived in Vietnam in 1624, forging the first path for French exploration linguistically, culturally, and geographically. With the advent of industrialization, European nations increasingly sought out commercial opportunities in the Far East. The French government achieved its aims in 1787 with the signing of the Treaty of Versailles, when it won promises for preferential trade access for its military support of the Thai Son Rebellion. Following the Opium Wars, Britain had taken significant control of much of Chinese trade, and France was under pressure to catch up. After a failed attempt to take Da Nang, Saigon and Cochin China were annexed in 1859. This left the Nguyen dynasty in control of the coastal Annam region and the northern Tonkin region, surrounding Hanoi. Still though, repeated French attempts to take the north and find their route into Chinese markets would repeatedly fail for more than 2 decades.
Here in Hanoi, the French launched their next attack in 1873, in which they attempted to capture the citadel of Han Lom. So these great big gaping holes that you can see, this is where the French tried to seize Hanoi. Failed attempt to seize Hanoi. You can just see, you can imagine the attack here would have taken place. Obviously the street would have been incredibly different, it wouldn't have existed. They would have came up the central part here and it would have been trying to approach this huge, ginormous block of stone to try and seize the city and gain the access to the Red River Delta, this whole entire area. They'd successfully taken other parts of the north, but they were unable to do this, and so 10 years after taking Saigon, more than 10 years, it would be almost another 10 years before they were able to take Hanoi. But it's just incredible that the real, actual history of what took place is still visible on this 200-year-old reconstruction of a 1,000-year-old citadel. And the actual citadel itself we can see just behind here. We can go in further and I can show you that. But this is just amazing, and it shows us that, like I said, the French invasion of Vietnam was not simple, it wasn't easy, and while its presence is clearly visible in Saigon and Hanoi, it took a long time to be put there. One important thing to remember about the influence and the remains of what France left behind is that whether we like it or not, whether the people of Vietnam like it or not, which by the way they're pretty accepting of their history, this added to the story, the narrative of Vietnam, and it's important that it is preserved, or at least some of it is. And gradually, at least over the past 20 years, as Vietnam has rose up as something of an economic miracle, lots of these remains, lots of these archaeological gifts of the past are gone, are going, and will be gone forever. And so it's worth reminding ourselves of the importance of structures like this what they tell us about the past, and how they point us towards the future.